Alright guys, we're going to do section 5 of unit 4, and we're going to talk about direct variation today. Alright, so let's say we have this recipe, and the recipe calls for 1 cup of rice for 5 servings. So in order for the chef, he needs to have 1 cup of rice for every 5 servings. So if he needs 2 servings, it would be 10, 3 servings, 15, 4 servings, it would be 20. Alright, so let's look at the function here. How do we get from x to y? Well, our function, our f of x, is where we're taking 5 and times an x, right? 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5 is 15, 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so that describes the relationship. In this relationship, the number of servings varies directly with the number of cups of rice. Okay? So a direct variation is a special type of linear relationship that can be written in the form y equals kx. Y equals 5x, where k is a non-zero constant. A constant is just a number, called the constant of variation. Okay, so 1 cup equals 5 servings, 2 cups equals 10 servings. All right, so that's how you get that. So tell whether the equation represents a direct variation. Here's the first thing. If so, identify the constant variation. Okay, so direct variation is right here, guys. That's y equals kx, and this k is your constant variation. So, is this in the form of the direct variation? Y equals kx. Well, it is. So then, our first answer is yes. Second one, what's our constant variation? Your constant variation is your k, the coefficient in front of the x, so it's 3. Alright, let's look at this one right here. We need to get it in our direct variation form, okay? So if you notice, y is isolated. We need to isolate our variable y. So to do that, the inverse of a positive 3x is subtract 3x. Okay? So y equals 8 minus 3x. Well, let's go ahead and put our constant that's with our x first. So y equals, this is a negative 3, negative 3x, that's a positive 8. So is it in this form right here? No. It is not. Y equals kx is not because of this 8 right here. So the answer here is no. So therefore, there's not a constant variation here. Okay, on this one, we need to isolate our variable y first. It's called a linear equation. So inverse of a negative 4x would be add 4x. So on the left side, I have 3y. On the right side, I have 4x plus 0. Now, we need to divide each term by 3 to isolate our variable y. So I have 4/3 x plus 0. So what we can do here is we can drop that 0, can't we? Our identity property of addition. When you add something to an equation, you're not changing the value of it. So, is this in the form of our direct variation formula? It is. Okay, so the answer is yes. And what is our constant variation? It is the k, which is the 4/3. Alright, so what do y'all think we need to do first on this one? Is our y isolated? It is not. So in order to isolate it, This is 3 times y. The inverse of multiplication is divide. You have to divide each term by 3. So we have y equals 4/3 x plus 1/3. Is this in the form of our direct variation formula? It is not because of this right here. So our answer is no. There is no constant variation. Okay? All right. What happens if you solve y equals kx for k? Well, let's do that. So we want to isolate k. So this is k times x. Inverse of multiplication is divide. So if we isolate k, we get y over x. So in a direct variation, the ratio y over x is equal to the constant of the variation. We just proved it right here. Our constant variation is our k. So if we solve for k, you get y over x. Another way to identify direct variation is to check whether the ratio y over x is the same for each ordered pair except where x is 0, because you can't have a denominator as 0, okay? It has to be for each ordered pair. So let's look at that. Okay, 2 methods. I'm going to show you both, but I do want you all practicing this method with the ratio, okay? All right, so the first one is to write an equation. How do we get from x to y? 2 to 6. Add 4, right? Well, let's see if that works here. 4 plus 4 is 8, so that's not it. So then let's look at multiplying. 2 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, so our equation is 3 times x will give us our y value. All right, is this in our direct variation form? It is. And our constant variation is what? It is the 3. It is what the k is. Okay, it's kind of what we did before. Well, let's do it with the ratio method. It takes a little bit longer, but I need to make sure you all understand this way too, okay? All right, so with the ratio method, what we need to do is we need to first, well, it's already identified. Your x and y is already identified. And let me move this up a little bit. Our ratio is y over x, okay? So our first ratio would be, and be careful here, it is 6 over 2, not 2 over 6, because our y is 6 and our x is 2. Our next one would be 12 over 4. And our last one would be 18 over 6. Okay, we already know it's a constant variation. We already did it with our equation method. But let's double check. This simplifies to 3. This simplifies to 3. This simplifies to 3. Because they are all the same for each ordered pair. It is a constant variation. And what is the variation? It is 3. Okay? All right. I want you all to try the next one on your own. And I do want you to do both methods. Try to figure out what the equation is. Some students struggle with even figuring out the equation, so if you need to, do the ratio method first, and then come over here and you'll get the equation. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be quiet and y'all work it on your own. so much wrong there. It should be. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm really messing this one up. Let me back up. I'm doing what I'm telling you all not to do. Okay, we'll be quiet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk because I really messed this one up. Let me explain it. I was switching my X and Y at first, and then I was putting 0 for my X. So be very careful. It's about 6 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to get out of here. So be very careful, okay? So it's Y over X, negative 2 over 1, 0 over 3, and then 4 over 7. Okay? Now, negative 2 over 1 simplifies to negative 2. 0 divided by 3 simplifies to 0. And 4/7 does not simplify. It's already relatively prime. So none of these are equal to each other. So we do not have a constant variation. So when you come over here to try to write your equation, it's going to be different for each one and you're going to struggle. There's not an equation that will match up each to your X on your Y for each ordered pair. Alrighty guys, I believe that is it. And it is. Thank goodness. I will see you all later. Have a good one.